Jalen Rose coming off a loss against the Bulls, the Chicago Bulls. You expect the Celtics to have a bounce-back game, right? They did not. They headed into Toronto. They didn't just lose. They really lost. Like, it's not what you do, it's how you do it. Like, you can lose a close game. They got waxed. They seemed just a little flat the entire game long. They were owned on both sides of the floor. They ended up losing 118-95. Jalen Rose, what happened to this Celtics team?
They ran into a classic version of a team with cohesion and effort and togetherness, and people have bought into their roles, where on the outside looking in, we will sense that a team like the Raptors and or the Bucks don't have as much talent as the Celtics.
They have one all-star.
And so that's what's great about team sports. The Celtics, I had a couple of takeaways from their performance. One, I've said it into this microphone, but it continues to be confirmed very often, that Kyrie Irving will not be playing with them next year. Number two, they will not make the conference finals.
See, now that's interesting to me.
They're not making the conference finals.
You just 2 weeks ago said that they would definitely be in the conference finals. In the playoffs, talent wins out, and that they would definitely be in the conference finals. They were your favorite to win the conference and lose to the Warriors in the finals. You said that 2 weeks ago. What has changed in the last 2 weeks?
Philly's my favorite to win the conference, and I've said that they would be Boston. The problem is they're not a team. So once the playoffs start, and they're going to be like a 4th or 5th seed, likely playing against a team like the Sixers in the first round. We'll see what happened to the Pacers, who now sit at 3.
Yep.
Depending on their matchup, David Jacoby.
Say it.
They could be out in the first round.
Say it.
How about that?
Say it.
If they play against Philly in the first round, they're going home.
What if they play Toronto in the first round?
They're definitely going home.
What if they play the Bucks in the first round?
They're going home.
Probably won't play the Bucks in the first round, but
that's the point. This has changed, and that's why I like having opinions without bias, because this ain't personal. I'm watching these dudes play, and they have terrific talent. Like, I'll take Kyrie on my team in a heartbeat.
Oh, yeah,
One of the
Tatum.
best shot makers in the game. Tatum is going to be a franchise-level player. I love Jalen Brown. His effort, his defense, his versatility. I like Scary Terry. He can ball. I like Smart's toughness. I like Al Horford's the ability to play smart and his versatility. I like their team. But they're all individuals. They're not a fist. And therefore, when it gets tight, like in Toronto, when you're going against a guy like, wait a minute, Pascal Siakam, this dude is fast. This dude is long.
Yeah.
This dude is making threes. Kawhi standing in front of you, he's stoic. He's just playing deep, not saying a word. Like, these guys are hungry for it. Now all of a sudden, I'm like, you know what? They want it more than the Celtics. They're a talented bunch, but they're not going to meet their goals this year.
Kyrie Irving had 7 points in the basketball game, the entire game. And after the game, he seemed a little frustrated. Let's listen.
Brad talked about just defensively, you guys have been taking shortcuts. So do you see that, and how do you guys fix things like that at this point of the season, do you feel like?
I don't know. It's up to Brad.
Marcus said that you guys aren't playing together. Is that a fair diagnosis?
I mean, that's Marcus' opinion. So
Is it yours?
respect it.
So it's not so much the content of what he said in that, it's his attitude, it's his demeanor. He just seemed frustrated. He was very short and flippant with the reporters, which you can do after a loss. I get frustrated after a loss and pick up, you know what I mean? But here's a question for you that I want to ask, and I can't believe I'm fixing my lips to say this. Does this Celtics season, for the first time ever, make you question Brad Stevens' head coaching abilities?
It doesn't make me question his abilities. Anybody that's followed this saga with Kyrie joining the Celtics has heard me say what I'm about to say. The Celtics are going to have to choose between the team first style that they were using before he arrived. Pace and space, ball finds the right man.
Of course.
Al Horford was leading the team in assists.
6 passes per possession.
Their offense was inverted. To giving it to a dynamic playmaker like Kyrie Irving, who's been an all-star perennially, who's been a finals champion, okay? Those were a conflict of styles. He took over a turnkey situation in theory to be a leader when They were already a cohesive group without him.
Yep.
So now when he's in the media saying, well, these young guys got to figure it out. They don't know what it takes.
I apologize to LeBron.
And then he says, well, no team can beat us in a 7-game series. Why?
That was like yesterday.
Because they got me. So now when you go against a team that you may actually face in the Eastern Conference, they got a better record than you, and the other guys showed, you know what, we got you. And what did he give? 7 points. And they had their first 20-point loss of the game. He was disinterested. He's not going to be there next year, and it's okay. It happens in the league.
How far do the Celtics need to go in the playoffs to keep Kyrie?
Finals.
If they win the Eastern Conference, he stays in Boston.
I think he strongly considers staying.
They lose in 7 games in the Eastern Conference Finals.
More bounce to the ounce.
Is he going to be in the Knicks next year?
I believe so.
With Kevin Durant?
And here's another.
With Kevin Durant?
I'm glad you went there. Thank you. Thank you for that lob. You're Gary Payton. Let me be Sean Kemp.
Okay.
When you're Kyrie Irving and you're Kevin Durant and you're kind of moonlighting together publicly, now they could be brothers, they could be homies, they could be friends. Like I had college teammates in the league, I had brothers in the league that I was in their weddings, all of that. But when you understand the speculation of free agency is out there, and you kind of thumb your nose up at it by being together publicly and allegedly talking about you guys' free agency and your plans, I'm about to give everybody a visual that nobody speaks into public microphones that's really important.
Okay.
What do you think Steph and Clay are thinking? What do you think Draymond is thinking? What are you thinking Morris is thinking? What do you think Al Horford is thinking? They're like, oh, okay. Those guys don't go back into the locker room and explain what just happened.
No, they don't.
Because the players already have an opinion. Like, oh, okay, this dude 1 foot in, 1 foot out. Okay, cool. We'll try to win a championship with you this year, KD. But guess what? Steph's shooting more now. You notice he's taking the team back. He's like, oh, okay, 10 threes on this. I'm the splash. So that's what I see happening in that situation. Kyrie won't be there next year. I do believe if and when he leaves, same with KD, that they both end up as a member of the New York Knickerbockers.
If you have the fiscal ability, buy Knicks season tickets right now. If you live in the tri-state area, buy Knicks season tickets right now because it might not be KD and Kyrie and Zion, but someone's coming. Like it's not gonna be the Dennis Smith Jr. show next year in MSG. If I had the money, I would buy Knicks season tickets right now. Jalen Rose. Big game in the Western Conference last night between two of the best teams in the Western Conference. The Thunder and the Nuggets. It was in Mile High. The Nuggets won a close game. They took on a big run by the Thunder in the second half to squeak this one out. We always talk about the Thunder and the Rockets being the teams that can challenge the Warriors. However, the Nuggets are right now 1 game behind the Warriors. 1 game behind the Warriors in the Western Conference. Jalen, is it now time to reconsider the Nuggets as a threat to the Warriors?
They deserve to be in the conversation, but I've already said that I feel like the two teams that had what it took to press the Golden State Warriors into long series were the Houston Rockets and the Oklahoma City Thunder. Why? Both of those teams have playoff savvy. They each have a former MVP, Harden, Russell. Paul George is playing at an all-NBA level, and we saw what Chris Paul can do when they went to Golden State and beat the Warriors on their home floor without James Harden. Those are the teams I'm banking on. Now, the Denver Nuggets are a team I tried to tell people the entire season, and you did as well, about their starting five and how they're going to surprise a lot of people and how Jokic was going to make the leap. When I watch Denver play, Horford clearly isn't as good as the Joker, but that's how the Celtics used to play.
Yep.
Their offense was inverted, and then players got to cut and move
Jokic
and slice.
touches it every possession.
Correct. And so when I watch the Nuggets play at home, and when you have the altitude, you're clearly trying to take advantage of that with the team speed. You see them one-leg runners and floaters and dropping dimes. You see Murray. You see Barton. Like, the Nuggets have, through injury, built out a level of depth that now I can count on. I can count on Beasley.
Do you know who's getting buckets yesterday, Jalen Rose? A gentleman by the name of Isaiah Thomas. Getting some big buckets. I loved seeing Isaiah Thomas last night in his performance. Jalen, you played in Denver. You were drafted by Denver. They are now second in the West, 1 game behind the Warriors, which means they will be hosting 2 playoff series most likely. Jalen, how much of a difference does the altitude really make for someone who actually played there?
It makes a difference. A little bumpy-faced kid with bad teeth from Detroit got a chance to get drafted by the Nuggets, and the next day I went and got veneers. And then right after that, we started the season. And I'll never forget, one of the better games I played my rookie year, I think was against the Houston Rockets. And I was feeling good. I was like, yeah! And I look over at the bench, Hakeem Olajuwon with the gas mask.
With the oxygen mask?
With the oxygen mask. I'm like, whoa! Because I'd never seen Hakeem a Dream tired. You know what I'm saying? And so I'm like, oh, it does play a factor. Like the altitude does play a factor. The Nuggets, when I was there, we practiced at Colorado Springs even, so that you could get a heightened level of what it would be like. And so it does have an effect for the opponent, which is why whether it was Doug Moe or whoever coaches their team, they try to make sure that it's an up-tempo squad so you can take advantage of it.
Jalen, they also have a great fan base in Denver.
Terrific.
And one of those fans had a little interaction with a gentleman by the name of Russell Westbrook. You've probably seen it by now, but Russell Westbrook, the call goes against him. He's a little upset. And then a fan reaches out and touches him. Young man, probably like 10, 11, 12 years old, reaches out and touches Russell Westbrook.
Reach out and touch somebody's hand.
So here's a question for you, Jalen.
Make this world a better place.
Is this something or nothing?
If you can, nothing. It's zero. It's nothing. The interaction and the relationship that the fans have with NBA players is the absolute best in professional sports. This is why, by any metric, you could look at the Forbes list, you could look at social media, you could look at commercials, you could look at dollars earned, you could look at appearance fees. That's why the NBA players trump their counterparts in other sports, and it ain't even close as it relates to popularity.
If it wasn't a child, would it be a different story?
It would not be a different story. Here's why.
Why's that?
Intent. Russell Westbrook got into it with an unruly fan before that was holding a beverage and seemed to be more confrontational. As somebody that's played his life, as someone who's dedicated his life to playing basketball, those interactions are different based on the player's mood. If I'm going up and down the floor and I'm Russell Westbrook and I just made 5 threes in a row, I'm looking for people to high five. Okay? This was a kid. He felt the soft touch. Russell is as emotional of a player that it gets in the NBA. I love the way he handled it.
I like how he handled it too.
He handled it with maturity. He wasn't emotional. He wasn't upset. He wasn't mad. He gave the young man a tap on the backside. He gave the parent a tap on the leg. This is no harm, no foul. We don't need to now put barricades up around the court. We don't need to move the fans.